In our pursuit of happiness, what we often tend to do is we often avoid pain and seek pleasure. And what happens is the pain is not gone in reality, it's in the backlog, it's sitting on our backs in the backlog, and as soon as our attention moves away from our distraction, the pain is there, perhaps more stronger, ready to haunt us in more subtle ways, right? Like the pain gets even stronger, the unprocessed emotion, the unprocessed traumas are harder to deal with. They pile up to become this bigger monster. Yeah, I mean, not doing some things to avoid pain, avoiding conflicts, not working out to avoid the physical pain, not doing your assignments to avoid the pain of having to do them, temporarily boosts our moods, but in a long term, like, that actually adds more pain. So in some ways, avoiding pain is in itself a very painful experience. We all struggle to find happiness. Oftentimes we try everything. We read books, watch videos, play video games. We do countless things. We try countless distraction to feel happy without any results. Some of us even suffer from mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and whatnot. But much to our frustration, this desire to let go of pain doesn't actually seem to work. We could be reading books after books after books, trying to find that one secret formula to be happy. But, like, it just adds to our frustration. It backfires. How often, do we get to hear the stories of motivational speakers suffering from depression themselves? So instead of the very things which are supposed to make us happy, the common knowledge, the common myth, the common sense would tell us that these things will make us happy, end up making us more miserable than we were before. Of course, overeating can temporarily make us happy. Whenever we feeling down, eating more food than we're supposed to is probably going to make us happy, right? It's gonna provide that initial high, but in the long term, like, it's gonna be detrimental. So one of the misconceptions we have is that being happy, achieving happiness, or well-being, wellness, these things involve having no pain at all. Like, these things involve avoiding pain, but it's a sort of counterintuitive in a sense that actually pain is the necessary process for being happy. or having a much richer lived experience, having a much more satisfying and fulfilled life. Having a satisfying and fulfilled life is about having a range of emotions and experiences. When we avoid certain negative emotions, our emotional range shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. We tend to become very robotic. One of the benefits with dealing with our pain, fighting with it head on instead of avoiding it, feeling it, letting it come, observing it, is that it helps us recognize pleasure. If we felt happy all the time, if we were happy all the time, we wouldn't know that it is happiness, right? It might as well be something else. Maybe happiness is something better than that. So sometimes we need to experience something in a totally opposite spectrum to know which of our experiences make us feel good and which of our experiences do not make us feel good. You have to have a bad day to recognize which days were better. Pain in itself is not pleasurable. It's very painful, but once we get relief from that pain, it's actually pleasurable. When pain goes away, our positive feelings increase. So when we deal with our pain, when we finish something that we had been avoiding, when we just tackle the pain head on and find that momentary relief, it's actually much more pleasurable than seeking pleasure elsewhere, seeking pleasure in distractions, trying to take off our mind from that pain. Pain also helps us connect with other people. It is much more likely that people around you are going through some form of pain themselves. People around you have had death in their families. People around you have had stories of failure, loss. They had to endure some painful moments in their lives. So pain promotes empathy for others. We start to feel what other people feel, or like we start to connect with other people better. This sort of bonding also increases our cooperation. So we often hear about or see or observe these social support groups. People who have gone through similar trauma, similar painful experience, when they come together, they form this special bond because they have similar painful experiences. I mean, if you think about it, the ice bucket challenge was a painful experience, but like it brought so many people together. Pain brings people together. pain also gives you sort of this motivation or drive to reward yourself. Pain is not pleasurable, it's a painful experience. So pain makes you sort of find ways to reward yourself. If you're in a really cold place, how would it feel if you found a warm fire? Like if you're walking in a jungle and it's really cold, really chilly in the night, and you find a bonfire, right? I mean, the experience that warm fire produces for you is much more of value, right? It has much greater impact, right? The colder you've been, the better it feels. The colder you've been, the better it feels, right? So pain also kind of sort of tells you what you are feeling at the moment, right? It's an indicator that something is going on at the present moment. It makes you aware of the present moment. If you feeling a headache, something's probably wrong, right? Something's there that needs to be adjusted, corrected. It's sort of a cliche by now. It's repeated often and rightfully so, that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So if we choose pain, if we choose to fight with our pain head on instead of avoiding it, we avoid suffering. Happiness, well-being, wellness, these things are not absence of pain. These things involve mental strength, agility, and they come from learning to deal with pain. When you start avoiding pain and constantly seeking pleasure, when you create a dependence on a substance, then small things start bothering you. Small things, these are minor sufferings, right? The more you avoid pain, the little minor inconsequential thing start bothering you. I mean, let's talk about drug addiction, right? Drug addiction, it's just not about avoiding. It's just not about seeking pleasure, right? It's also about avoiding pain. So drug addiction mainly comes from our desire to not feel negative emotion. So the two major motivation behind drug addiction is seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. So people start off as occasional user, then they get hooked, right? Then they get addicted. But we know what happens to addicts in the long term, right? This is not a sustainable way to deal with pain. Avoidance is simply not a sustainable way. The very thing, the very drug that initially helps us avoid pain and provides us pleasure becomes the source of a much greater pain, a much greater trauma. So sometimes embracing emotional pain, embracing our distress is the best medicine against pain. You feel in anxiety, right? You feel in anxiety. You feel that bad stuff will happen to you and you will not be able to handle it, right? One way to deal with it is avoid everything, hide in a room, never go out, don't face anyone, right? But then the more we do it, the more you do it, the less likely you will be to be able to function, right? The more you hide from the society, the more you don't go out, the less likely you would be able to do that, the less likely you would be able to do very simple, very normal things in life. Everyday normal things start feeling like real life threats, existential threats. So the better approach would be to face the pain, let it hurt, feel it, fight it, go out, right? Go out. The more you do it, the better you become. The urge to avoid pain at all cost can make our lives very tiny, very closeted, very claustrophobic. As we're avoiding our undesirable negative emotions, we also avoid much more profound experiences in life, as we're avoiding being made fun of by people, right? We do not meet new people because what if they make fun of us? What if they laugh at us? As we avoid these things, we also lose on the prospects to have really impactful social connections, really meaningful connections, feeling the kinds of feelings and emotions that we'd never felt before. Avoiding pain also sort of prevents recovery from our traumas. I mean, sometimes struggle is worth it. And there are obviously obvious reasons that we prefer pleasure, we prefer safety over something like pain and risk. But sometimes it becomes very counterintuitive to do that. Our natural disposition, our natural tendency to do something becomes counterproductive. Again, this thing is like we need to fight pain head on. We should not constantly seek pleasure, and we should rather try to resolve our traumas, fight with our painful experiences and let go of them and feel that emotional relief. I mean, it's easier to say, it's harder to do, right? I mean, uh, understanding it in a cognitive level, like comprehending it, is not enough, right? It's just like our brain pattern. It's a neural pattern that we formed over time by doing it over and over and over and over again. So to let go of it, again we need to form a new habit, a new pattern, and do it over and over and over again, right? We'll fail at our task. There would be days where we simply cannot, and we're more likely to cheat, and it's okay, right? It's okay. We're not perfect, nobody is perfect, but I mean, they say Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Anything worthwhile takes time and effort. It takes a lot of failures, right? But I guess the more we do it, the better we get. And having dealt with your pain at least once in your life, has got to be better than having never dealt with it. And the more the better. You know what happened to you. You are what you chose to become, as Carl Jung said, right? So, having said that, I'd like to end this podcast here. And I understand that dealing with pain is hard and it's really painful, and initially it's gonna feel a lot worse than simply avoiding pain does, but in the long term it's gonna pay dividends. And a lot of the times we are going to fail at it, and it's okay to fail. Every time we fall down, we can just get back, dust ourselves, start walking again. Every time we fall down, we don't have to lie in the ground and feel that our life is over. We can always stand up. And thank you for listening to me. If you'd like to share something, share your experiences with pain, share the ways you have discovered how you deal with it, what you've discovered along your journeycal life, then please feel free to leave it down in the comment section below, so other people also learn from your experience. And it could be also the means to bond with other people. and I'll see you in the next video.